Hi and welcome back again for part 3, and part 3 we're going to cover outcrossing. Now in the past I have seen a lot of people readily outcross and outcross and outcross and outcross for generation upon generation, only to find 4 or 5 years down the line the birds that they're producing, although are producing lots of youngsters, are producing lesser quality youngsters than they started with. So the birds that they started with, if you look back, tend to be better quality birds than the ones they've got now. Now, outcrossing for me is something that I rarely do, and if I do it, it will be bringing in a bird that has traits and usually maybe 1 or 2 features that my birds would be lacking in. Because like you say, as I said before in part 2, inbreeding, it brings out all the good traits, but obviously it can only bring out what's in the birds, it can't add. So if you were inbreeding for such a long time and you found that your birds were getting a little bit on the small side, I mean, the way to do that would be to outcross to a different line that has a bit of size to it, and then that would bring vigour back in and also boost the size up. So outcrossing is something that you do very rarely and very carefully. So you've been breeding your birds for 4 or 5 generations, maybe 10 generations, and you think that the time has come for an outcross. So you would select the bird, your outcross bird, you would look at the bird you had and said, right, my roses are a bit small and they need to be rounder. So what I'm going to do is, when I outcross to a bird, I'm going to select a bird that has very thick, round, flat rows, and hopefully a few other traits and all, but obviously it would be a bird that would come from a very fertile line, and a bird that you knew of that had very limited or very small genetic defects within the breed. So you wouldn't want to be outcrossing to a line of birds that you knew carried leg faults or carried rose defects or carried splayed leg problems. These would be families of strains that you would try and keep away from. So you would source your outcross 2 or 3 generations before you need it, and that's the big problem, is finding out when you need to outcross. You need to watch for the signs, see the signs. So the signs would be diminished fertility, diminished egg production, weak youngsters, too many weak youngsters appearing, resistance to disease would drop. Inbreeding does bring about a weakness in the immune system, but I'm not talking about 1 or 2 generations here, I'm talking 10, 12 generations. So these would be the birds you would be select for the outcrossing. What would you do with the outcross? You would get the outcross, you would mate them to your 2 finest hens that you had in your loft. If you are going to bring an outcross in, always bring cockbirds in, never bring hens in. You don't need hens, you've got plenty of hens. Bring a cockbird in. Pick the best 2 hens you've got, mate them to them, breed as many youngsters as you can from the outcross. Then the following year, select the best youngsters from them, keep back both cocks and hens, and slowly introduce them into your line. I would probably pick the best daughter from the cockbird and mate it back to him, just to see exactly what was behind him as well. I'd be curious to know what he was bred down from, so I would set a line inbred family back around him, so I knew what was in him, so what I could expect from him. Then I would get the best daughters, mate them into your family, get the 2 best sons, mate them back to the mothers, and start the whole process of inbreeding again. The cock would never be crossed back in again. Once I'd crossed them in once, you don't need them. As long as you've bred enough youngsters from them, the job's done. Get them out, go back to inbreeding. So that's the only time you need to outcross. You don't need to outcross because somebody else has got birds available, and that's what I do see. I've seen a lot in the past where people have bought birds from somebody, bred from them, then bought birds from another person, crossed them in, The next year I bought birds from another person, crossed them in, and never really usually amounts to anything. So that's outcrossing. It's pretty simple. It's not something you really need to dwell on. The only key thing with outcrossing is select the best bird you can lay your hands on and know when to outcross. Don't outcross for outcrossing's sake. So that's part 3. So we'll see you from there. Take care and bye.